The crystal chandelier cast warm light over the hotel ballroom, and I couldn't stop smiling. My wedding reception was everything I'd dreamed of: elegant white roses on every table, the soft melody of our first dance song still echoing in my mind, and my new husband Michael spinning me around the dance floor just an hour ago. The October evening in downtown Chicago was crisp and perfect, with the city lights twinkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I smoothed my ivory silk dress and watched Michael across the room, charming my aunts with his easy laugh and those dimples that had first caught my attention 2 years ago at the coffee shop where we met. He looked so handsome in his navy suit, his dark hair slightly tousled from all the dancing. At 32, he still had that boyish charm that made everyone gravitate toward him. "Rachel, honey, you look absolutely radiant," my mom whispered, squeezing my hand as she passed by with another slice of the 3-tier vanilla cake we'd spent weeks choosing. "Thanks, Mom. I feel like I'm living in a dream." And I really did. After my messy divorce from Tom 3 years ago, a relationship that had drained me emotionally and financially, I'd never thought I'd trust anyone enough to remarry. But Michael was different. He was patient, understanding about my trust issues, and never pressured me when I had my moments of doubt. He worked as a financial advisor downtown, had his life together, and most importantly, he made me laugh again. The band was playing something soft and jazzy when I noticed a commotion near the entrance. Hotel security was speaking quietly but firmly to someone I couldn't quite see past the crowd of guests. My heart did a little skip. Please don't let it be some wedding crasher or drama tonight of all nights. "Everything okay over there?" I asked my cousin Lisa, who had a better view from where she stood. She squinted toward the entrance, then her face went pale. "Rachel, I think you need to see this." I made my way through the crowd, my heels clicking on the marble floor, the sound somehow louder than the music. As I got closer, I could hear a woman's voice, steady but insistent. "I just need 5 minutes. Please, this is important." When the crowd finally parted, I felt the room spin slightly. Standing there in a simple black dress, her auburn hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, was someone I'd only seen in a few old photos Michael kept buried in his desk drawer. Victoria, Michael's ex-wife. She was prettier than I'd imagined, tall, poised, with the kind of confidence that comes from years in corporate boardrooms. Michael had mentioned she worked in marketing for a tech company, but seeing her in person, I understood why he'd been attracted to her. She had this magnetic presence that even the security guards seemed to respect. "Ma'am, this is a private event," one of the guards was saying, but his tone was polite, not threatening. "I understand, and I'm sorry for the intrusion," Victoria said, her green eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. "But I'm sorry, Rachel, right? I really need to speak with you. It's about Michael." The way she said his name with familiarity, with a slight edge of something I couldn't identify, made my stomach clench. Michael had told me their divorce was amicable, that they'd simply grown apart. They'd been married for 5 years, no kids, and the split had been clean. He rarely talked about her, which I'd actually appreciated. Who wants to hear about their husband's ex-wife all the time? "I don't understand," I managed to say, very aware that several guests had stopped their conversations to watch this unfold. "Tonight really isn't. I know the timing is terrible, and I'm so sorry," Victoria interrupted, stepping closer. Up close, I could see the urgency in her eyes and something else. Fear? Concern? "But Rachel, you need to check your husband's phone. Tonight. Before it's too late." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Excuse me." Victoria glanced around at the watching faces, then back to me. "Can we step outside? Just for a moment? Please. I have something to show you, and after you see it, you can decide what to do with the information." My mind was racing. What could she possibly have to show me? And why now? Why on my wedding night? "Rachel." Michael's voice boomed across the room, warm and welcoming as always. I turned to see him approaching, his arm extended as if to embrace Victoria. "Vic, what a surprise." I didn't know you were coming. But something in his smile didn't reach his eyes, and for the first time since I'd known him, Michael looked nervous. Victoria's jaw tightened slightly. "Hello, Michael. Congratulations on your marriage." "Thank you," he said, wrapping his arm around my waist possessively. "What brings you here tonight? Everything okay?" "Actually, I was just asking Rachel if we could chat privately for a moment. Girl talk, you know." Michael's grip on my waist tightened almost imperceptibly. "Well, it's our wedding night, so maybe we could catch up another time? I'm sure you understand." The tension between them was thick enough to cut with a knife. Whatever their divorce had been, it clearly hadn't been as amicable as Michael had led me to believe. "Of course," Victoria said smoothly. She reached into her small black purse and pulled out a business card. "Rachel, here's my number. When you're ready to have that conversation, just call me, day or night." As she turned to leave, she paused and looked back at me one more time. "Check his phone, Rachel. The password is October 15th, today's date. He's been using it for months." And with that, she walked out of the ballroom, leaving me standing there with her business card in my hand and my new husband's arm around me, feeling like the perfect evening had just cracked down the middle. Michael was still smiling, but his eyes were cold. "Don't let her ruin our night, sweetheart. You know how exes can be jealous, vindictive. She probably saw the wedding announcement in the paper and couldn't stand seeing me happy." But as the band resumed playing and our guests gradually returned to their conversations, I couldn't shake the feeling that Victoria hadn't looked jealous. She'd looked worried, and she'd known Michael's phone password. I barely slept that night. Michael and I had checked into the bridal suite at the Palmer House, and he'd fallen asleep almost immediately after we'd finally gotten back from the reception, exhausted from all the excitement. But I lay there staring at the ornate ceiling, Victoria's words echoing in my mind. Check his phone. The password is October 15th. How could she possibly know his phone password? And why would she risk showing up at my wedding reception if it wasn't something serious? At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I slipped out of bed, quietly, grabbed Michael's phone from the nightstand, and padded to the bathroom, closing the door softly behind me. My hands were shaking as I entered the date, 1015. The phone unlocked immediately. For a moment, I just sat there on the marble bathroom floor in my silk pajamas, staring at the home screen. This felt like such a violation of trust. We'd never been the kind of couple who went through each other's phones. We respected each other's privacy. At least I thought we did. I started with his text messages, my heart pounding so hard I was sure it would wake Michael in the next room. Most of the recent messages were normal responses to wedding congratulations, work stuff, messages from his brother about the bachelor party. But then I saw a name that made my blood run cold. Victoria. The messages went back months. I scrolled to the beginning with trembling fingers. Victoria, March 15th. I saw the engagement announcement. Congratulations. She seems lovely. Michael, March 15th. Thanks. I hope you're doing well. Victoria, March 18th. Michael, we need to talk. I found something in the storage unit when I was cleaning it out. Michael, March 18th. What kind of something? Victoria, March 20th. The documents from the Patterson deal. The ones you said were lost. Michael, March 20th. Those were destroyed years ago. You know that. Victoria, March 22nd. No, Michael. They weren't. And I know what they mean. There was a gap of several days, then. Michael, March 26th. Let's meet. We can work this out. Victoria, March 26th. There's nothing to work out. You embezzled money from the Patterson account. I have the transfer records. My hand flew to my mouth. Embezzlement? That couldn't be right. Michael was one of the most ethical people I knew. He'd once returned a wallet with $300 in cash to a complete stranger, refusing the reward money. Michael, March 27th. It's not what it looks like. Let me explain. Victoria, March 30th. You stole from your client, Michael. An elderly client who trusted you with his retirement fund. Michael, April 2nd, I borrowed it. I was going to pay it back. Victoria, April 5th, with what money? You're getting married, buying a house, planning this elaborate wedding. Where were you going to get $200,000? $200,000. I felt sick. Michael, April 8th. Don't do anything stupid, Vic. This affects you too. Victoria, April 10th. How does this affect me? Michael, April 12th. You were married to me when it happened. You think the authorities won't look at your finances too? Your career will be over. Victoria, April 15th. Are you threatening me? Michael, April 18th. I'm protecting both of us. Just leave it alone. The messages continued through the summer, with Victoria growing increasingly frustrated and Michael becoming more manipulative. He alternated between pleading with her to stay quiet and subtly threatening her career and reputation. Victoria, July 4th. I can't live with this anymore. That man trusted you. Michael, July 6th. He's fine. He never even noticed. His account is still healthy. Victoria, July 8th. Because you've been slowly paying it back with money from other clients' accounts. This is getting worse, not better. Michael, July 12th. I have everything under control. Victoria, August 1st. Mr. Patterson died last week. Michael, August 3rd. I know. I sent flowers. Victoria, August 5th. You stole from a dying man. Michael, August 8th. Enough. We're done talking about this. Victoria, September 12th. I've been thinking about this for months. After your wedding, I'm going to the authorities. Michael, September 15th. You'll destroy both our lives. Victoria, September 20th. My life is already destroyed. I can't look at myself in the mirror. Victoria, October 10th. I'm sorry, Michael, but I can't let you do this to Rachel too. Michael, October 12th. Do what to Rachel? Victoria, October 14th. She deserves to know who she's marrying. Michael, October 14th. If you ruin my wedding day, I swear to God. Victoria. Victoria, October 15th. You swear what? You'll steal from me too? The last message was sent at 2:47 p.m. yesterday, right around the time we were taking photos before the ceremony. I sat there on the cold bathroom floor, my entire world tilting on its axis. The man sleeping in the next room, the man I just promised to love and honor for the rest of my life, was a thief. Not just any thief. He'd stolen from elderly clients who trusted him with their life savings. And Victoria, the woman I'd seen as a potential threat to my happiness, had been trying to protect me. I scrolled through more of the phone. There were emails confirming what the texts had revealed. Bank statements showing mysterious transfers. Documents that I didn't fully understand, but that painted a clear picture of systematic fraud spanning several years. How had I missed this? How had I been so blind? But even as I asked myself that question, I knew the answer. Michael was charming, convincing, and he'd been careful. The house we bought together was in my name because of tax advantages. Our joint account only had small amounts in it. He kept his business accounts separate. I thought it showed that he was financially savvy and wanted to protect me. Now I realized he'd been protecting himself. I heard movement from the bedroom and quickly closed the phone, my heart hammering. When I emerged from the bathroom, Michael was sitting up in bed, looking concerned. Hey, you okay? You've been in there a while. I looked at this man I'd married less than 12 hours ago, really looked at him. The charming smile, the concerned eyes, the way he reached out to touch my face so gently. How much of it was real? How much had been an act? Just couldn't sleep, I managed. Wedding night jitters, I guess. He pulled me back into bed, wrapping his arms around me. It's been a big day. Try to get some rest. As he drifted back to sleep, I lay there staring at the ceiling again. But this time, I wasn't thinking about Victoria's warning. I was thinking about what I was going to do next. I called in sick to work the next morning. Michael kissed me goodbye as usual, telling me he'd pick up soup for my stomach bug on his way home. The casual lie rolled off my tongue so easily, and I wondered if I'd learned that from him. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I called Victoria. "I was wondering when you'd call," she said, her voice gentle but not surprised. "Can we meet?" "Today?" "Of course. There's a coffee shop on Lincoln Avenue, near DePaul. Café Luna. I can be there in an hour." I spent that hour pacing our living room, my living room. I corrected myself, since the house was in my name, trying to process everything I'd learned. The wedding photos from yesterday were still spread across the kitchen table, our smiling faces mocking me from behind the glass. Victoria was already waiting when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups of coffee. She looked tired, older than she had at the wedding, but there was also something like relief in her expression. "I ordered you a latte," she said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure what you liked." "Thank you." I wrapped my hands around the warm cup, needing something to anchor me. I read the messages. She nodded slowly. "All of them?" "I think so. The emails, too, and some documents I didn't really understand." "The documents are financial records showing the transfers from client accounts. I used to help Michael organize his files when we were married. I have a background in accounting. When I found those papers in our old storage unit, I knew immediately what I was looking at." I stared into my coffee. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on what I found, at least 3 years, maybe longer. The Patterson account was just the most recent one and the largest single theft. $200,000. The number felt surreal. From one client, yes. But Rachel, there were others. Smaller amounts, taken over time. I estimate he's stolen close to $500,000 total." The cafe seemed to spin around me. $500,000. Why didn't you go to the police immediately? Why wait months? Victoria's face crumpled slightly. "Because I'm a coward. When we were married, I signed some of his business documents without really reading them. I was so in love, so trusting. Some of those signatures could be interpreted as me being complicit. Michael wasn't wrong when he said this could destroy my career too. But you were going to come forward anyway." "Yes, because it's the right thing to do, and because," she paused, looking directly at me, "because I couldn't let him do to you what he did to me." "What do you mean?" Victoria pulled out her phone and scrolled through some photos. "This is our house, the house we bought together when we were married." I looked at the photo of a beautiful Victorian home with a wraparound porch. "It's lovely." It was, until I found out that Michael had taken out a second mortgage without telling me to cover some of his investments. When everything came crashing down and we divorced, I had to declare bankruptcy. I lost everything, the house, my savings, even my car. My coffee had gone cold in my hands. "He told me you guys divorced amicably, that you'd grown apart." "We divorced because I caught him stealing from our joint account to pay gambling debts. The amicable part was me agreeing not to press charges in exchange for him not fighting the divorce." The pieces were falling into place, painting a picture of the man I'd married that I didn't recognize. The gambling started small, online poker, sports betting, but it got worse, especially after work became stressful. He'd have good streaks and bad streaks, but the bad ones were really bad. That's when the client money started disappearing. I thought about all the times Michael had worked late, all the business dinners he'd attended, all the weekends he'd spent networking. How much of that had been lies? Why are you telling me this now? You could have just gone to the police and let me figure it out on my own. Victoria reached across the table and touched my hand. "Because 5 years ago I was you. I was madly in love with a man who seemed perfect, who made me feel like I was the luckiest woman in the world. And when everything fell apart, I had no one to prepare me, no one to warn me. I lost everything, including my ability to trust my own judgment. Tears were burning behind my eyes. I don't know what to do." "That's okay. You don't have to decide anything right now." "Yes, I do." I pulled out my phone and showed her a text that had come in while I was driving to meet her. This is from my mortgage company. They're asking about a refinancing application that was submitted last week. Victoria's face went pale. You didn't apply to refinance. No, but I bet I know who did. I scrolled through more messages, and this is from my credit card company, confirming a credit limit increase to $50,000. We sat in silence for a moment, both understanding what this meant. Michael wasn't just stealing from his clients anymore. He was starting to steal from me. Rachel, you need to protect yourself financially right now today. I know. I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. But first, I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with. Can you help me go through all those documents? I need to know everything before I decide what to do. Victoria nodded. Of course. But Rachel, there's something else. What? Michael doesn't know I made copies of everything before I put the originals back in storage. If we're going to do this, we need to be careful. He's not the man you married. He's desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things. As if summoned by her words, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Feeling better? Love you, beautiful. Can't wait to start our new life together. I showed the message to Victoria, and she shook her head sadly. He really doesn't know you found out, does he? No, and I'm going to keep it that way until I decide what to do next. But even as I said it, I knew that my marriage, all 24 hours of it, was over. The only question now was how much damage Michael would cause before I could stop him, and whether I'd be strong enough to stop him at all. 3 days later, I was sitting in a lawyer's office downtown, surrounded by boxes of documents that Victoria and I had spent hours organizing. Criminal defense attorney Patricia Wong reviewed the papers with the methodical precision of someone who'd seen this story too many times before. This is substantial, she said, setting down the last folder. Wire fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, if the prosecution can prove all of this. Your husband is looking at serious federal charges. What kind of serious? 10 to 15 years minimum. The number hit me like a physical blow. Despite everything, Michael was still the man I'd laughed with over morning coffee just 3 days ago. Still the man who'd held me while I cried over a sad movie last month. Mrs. Patterson, Patricia continued, using my married name that I hadn't yet decided whether to keep. You need to understand your legal exposure here, too. Some of these financial instruments have your signature on them. I never signed anything related to his business. No, but you did refinance your house last week. Or rather, someone using your identity and social security number did. The application was approved for $200,000. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. I never. The signature matches samples I've seen of your handwriting, and it was notarized by someone at Michael's office. Either you signed it and forgot, or Michael forged my signature. The words tasted bitter. If that's the case, you're a victim too. But until we can prove it, you could be seen as complicit. Victoria, who'd been sitting silently in the corner, finally spoke up. That's exactly what he did to me. Made me sign papers I didn't understand, then used my signatures against me later. Patricia nodded grimly. It's a common pattern. The question now is what you want to do about it. I'd been dreading this moment for 3 days. What are my options? You can go to the FBI with this information. They'll investigate, probably arrest Michael, and you'll be a witness in the prosecution. Given the evidence, it's likely he'll be convicted. And the other option? You confront Michael privately, convince him to return the money and turn himself in. Maybe negotiate a plea deal that gets him a lighter sentence. What would you do? Patricia leaned back in her chair, studying me. Honestly, I'd protect myself first. File for divorce. Report the identity theft. Cooperate with the federal investigation. This man has been lying to you for years, and he's using your identity to commit crimes. He's counting on your love for him to keep you quiet, just like he counted on Victoria's. I looked at Victoria, who'd been my lifeline these past few days. Do you regret not turning him in earlier? Every day, she said quietly. Mr. Patterson died without ever knowing his financial advisor had stolen from him. His daughter is dealing with an estate that's worth $200,000, less than it should be. How do I live with that? That afternoon, I drove home with Patricia's business card in my purse and a decision weighing on my heart. Michael was in the kitchen when I walked in, stirring something that smelled like his grandmother's tomato sauce recipe. "There's my beautiful wife," he said, kissing my cheek. "Feeling better?" "Much better." I watched him move around our kitchen with easy familiarity, humming under his breath. "Michael, can we talk about something?" "Of course." He turned down the heat and gave me his full attention. "What's on your mind?" This was my moment. I could confront him, give him a chance to explain, maybe even to make things right. Or I could pretend everything was normal while I gathered more evidence, protected myself legally, and prepared for the storm that was coming. "I've been thinking about our finances," I said carefully. "Now that we're married, maybe we should combine everything. Joint accounts, joint credit cards, complete transparency." Something flickered behind his eyes so quickly I almost missed it. "That's a great idea, sweetheart. We can set up a meeting with my financial advisor next week." "Your financial advisor?" "Yeah, Tom Bradley. He handles all my investments. Great guy, you'll love him." I knew from the documents that Tom Bradley was one of the clients Michael had stolen from. He was also dead, had died 2 months ago, which I'd verified through obituaries online. Michael was still lying to me, even now, even after everything. "That sounds perfect," I said, forcing a smile. "I can't wait to meet him." As we sat down to dinner, Michael told me about his day, asked about mine, made plans for our weekend. He was the same charming, attentive husband he'd been for 2 years, the same man who'd made me believe in love again after my devastating first marriage. But now I knew it was all performance. After dinner, while Michael was in the shower, I made the call that would change everything. "Agent Martinez, this is Rachel Patterson. I have information about financial crimes being committed by my husband, Michael Patterson. I need to speak with someone immediately." The next morning, I woke up to find Michael already dressed for work, looking unusually nervous. "I have to go out of town for a few days," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Client emergency in Denver." "When will you be back?" "Friday, maybe Saturday." He kissed my forehead, and for just a moment, I saw a flash of the man I'd fallen in love with. "I love you, Rachel. Whatever happens, remember that I love you." As his car pulled out of the driveway, I knew I'd never see my husband again. By the time the FBI arrived with a warrant 2 hours later, Michael Patterson had vanished, along with what remained of his client's money and my ability to trust my own heart. But for the first time in days, I could breathe. 6 months later, I was sitting in the same coffee shop where Victoria and I had first talked, reading a newspaper article about Michael's arrest in Mexico. He'd been living under a false name, working at a resort, trying to build a new life with stolen money. Victoria slid into the seat across from me, looking better than I'd seen her in months. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Better than I expected." And it was true. The divorce had been finalized, the house was secure in my name, and I'd even gotten a promotion at work. "I heard from Patricia yesterday. Michael took a plea deal." "How long?" 8 years. He has to pay restitution to all the victims, including you and Mr. Patterson's estate." Victoria nodded, looking relieved. "And you? Any regrets?" I thought about it seriously. I regret marrying someone I didn't really know. I regret that people got hurt because of my husband's crimes, but I don't regret turning him in. "Even though you loved him?" "Especially because I loved him." I folded the newspaper. Real love means wanting someone to be the best version of themselves, even if it's painful. The man I married was living a lie, and I couldn't be part of that lie anymore. Victoria smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. "You're stronger than I was." "No," I said. reaching across to squeeze her hand. I had you to show me that survival was possible. That's the difference. As we walked out into the crisp Chicago afternoon, I thought about the wedding photos I'd finally taken down from the kitchen table. I'd kept just one, not of Michael and me, but of the moment right before Victoria had walked into the reception. In that photo, I looked genuinely happy, genuinely hopeful. I wanted to remember that woman not because she was naive, but because she was brave enough to believe in love. And someday, when I was ready, she'd be brave enough to believe in it again. But this time with her eyes wide open,